None of this has anything to do with worker cooperatives. Again, what is going on? I don't understand. This is the strangest straw man. Like this, is this the whole thing? Is this whole thing gonna be like this? Start to finish? Like this, yeah, does she think worker co-ops are somehow communist?
A few moments later.
Let's take that little taste of power. Ooh, they want more of it, don't they? Gee, doesn't that sound like maybe a communist society?
We do need to take one more class. We need to take one more class, and we need to learn things that, of course, are not anecdotal in any way. It's definitely not anecdote you.
I wouldn't be caught dead at a Donald Trump rally. I mean, come on. I've given money to Bernie. And yet there I was, February 2020, listening to the President of the United States address a crowd of 11,000 supporters. How in the world did that happen? Well, it all started with knitting. I knit to relax, to escape the drama of real life, but like almost everything nowadays.
Definitely sounds like a personal testimony, not someone reading awkwardly, because again, they have very little media experience, but awkwardly off some cue cards there. Definitely how human beings speak to each other. Hello, honey. How was your day? Yes, my day was good as well. I had a hard time at work, but you'd never believe it until you truly learn the facts of my day.
Even knitting has become political, to the point that only those with politically correct views are welcome in the online knitting forums. You think I'm kidding. I wish I were, but I'm not.
Okay.
The online knitting mob is real, and like all mobs, it's mean. That always made me uncomfortable, the insults and the name-calling, but I despised those knuckle-dragging Republicans as much as the next knitter. So despite my discomfort, I never gave it much thought. Truth.
What? The online knitty community's hatred of, like, Trump supporters? Whoa, PragerU, where?
Is, I'm more interested in mastering a 3-needle bind-off than discussing immigration policy. But the knitting mob wouldn't drop it. It became a fixation, a daily litany of how horrible the president and his followers were. It started to bug me. All I wanted to do was knit. But then I began to wonder, could those Trump supporters, some of whom were literally my neighbors, really be as irredeemable as they said? I assumed the answer was yes, but I had to find out. And that is how I came to be at a rally for the president on the eve of the New Hampshire primary. My friends urged me not to go. They feared for my safety.
That's where you have to go to learn this stuff. You couldn't just go on Google. You couldn't just like look up one policy or I don't know, read a single news article or be aware of just what was happening in the United States for the past 4 years. Any of those things. No, you had to go to your first Trump rally to see what it was all about.
Offered me her pepper spray for protection. I declined, but I won't pretend I wasn't nervous. I had no idea what to expect. I arrived 4 hours early. The line outside the arena was already a mile long. At first, I said nothing to those around me. I didn't want to provoke a scene. But then, as people are wont to do when stuck in a long line, we started to chat. First pleasantries, and then to more serious topics. And here's what I discovered. These people were so nice. No one harassed me. No one intimidated me. No one threatened me. In fact, when I mentioned I was a Democrat, their response was invariably a smile.
Okay, so there's some PragerU videos where, like, I understand how someone who's fully indoctrinated to this way of thinking could look at the video and then afterwards be like, well, I'm gonna share that with some of my liberal friends because then they'll finally learn the truth and they'll see why this is wrong. And then they, like, you know, their liberal friends just laugh at them. But like this one, I don't get who this appeals to. Like, I don't understand who would see this and be like, well, I should share this with somebody. Because if they hear this one strange anecdote by someone who is in the knitting community, who experienced all kinds of strange online hatred towards people who weren't in her political affiliation at all, but anyways, couldn't tolerate it anymore. But then she went to the Trump rally and was treated with dignity and respect. Well, maybe I had this whole thing wrong.
These were decent, hardworking people from every walk of life. Electricians, lawyers, school teachers, small business owners, veterans. I might question some of the policies they supported. They were only too happy to debate me. but I couldn't question their good intentions or decency. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, more like a rock concert.
So, I don't know. The fascists are nice to me, so it doesn't matter that they have terrible beliefs or are trying to oppress other people because they were nice to me.
Than a political event. People were dancing and having a fantastic time. They were actually enjoying themselves.
Wow.
As it happens, 2 days earlier, I had been in this same arena for a Democratic Party rally. The contrast was stark. Whereas the event for the president was full of optimism and enthusiasm, the Democrats' event was all doom and gloom. The country was racked with racism, sexism, and xenophobia. At the Trump event, the participants were bursting with national pride. Of course, the president touted his achievements.
And of course, you know, the mostly white crowd was happy. Nothing's wrong.
Especially the economy, and attacked his opponents. But I was surprised how funny he was, and his energy never flagged. He seemed to be enjoying the event every bit as much as his audience. Here's something else that surprised me. While the crowd had obvious affection for the country's chief executive, there was nothing slavish or mindless about it. These people were not stupid, not brainwashed, and as far as I could tell, not racist, sexist, or phobic anything.
Wow.
So, did going to a Trump rally change me? Well, my values are the same, but my perspective is different. I'll even say the experience made me a better person. I learned that the people who come to these rallies aren't there because they hate anybody. They're there because they love America. Somewhere between Pearl 1, Knit 2, I had lost that love. Now I have it again, and I'm grateful. The rally also reminded me that we are a people. Yes, we have fierce disagreements on how to solve our problems, but those who differ with us are not evil. Thinking that they are, that's the problem. That's what's tearing us apart. I refuse to add to the divisiveness any longer. I refuse to hate people I don't know simply because I don't like the way they vote. I invite you to join me. Let's make America civil again.
Aw, this is something that's been echoed quite a bit, by the way, by the other side. They've been saying this for some time that, you know, why are people who wear MAGA hats the most hated people in America? Like, why are we the ones being persecuted? Truly, you know, it's no one suffers more. No one suffers more.
If we can do that, we'll all win. I'm Carlin Burisenko, independent voter for Prager University. Thank you for watching this.
So someone said that this is the person who calls out Vaush, psychologist and author. Interesting.
Okay, so I'm hesitant to do this video for two reasons. Number one, this is commenting on something that happened back in December. It was a while ago. And so it's been some time. Maybe positions have changed since then. I don't know. And I'm not going to go back and watch every goddamn video to see if positions have changed. But that kind of brings me to reason number two why I'm hesitant to do this. It's because I think of like all the things that I'm really, and I mean, guys, really not interested in. It's the bickering and the debates and the back and forth that happen on YouTube. But, you know, I was bored yesterday and I kind of went down the whole rabbit hole of like why conservatives shouldn't debate BreadTube and all this crap. And I was like,
you can definitely tell what the algorithm's been feeding her, eh? What do we got here? Rose at Dawn, Tim Pool, and Sargon of Akkad Daily. Interesting. And also, you gotta love people who call out, like, I hate when people do X, which is why I'm about to do X right now, but I'm doing it for the right reasons, okay? I'm doing it because I was bored.
And I started watching this debate. I may have had a couple of beers at the time, and I started watching this debate last night between Sargon and Vaush, who I've only seen a couple of videos from Vaush, and I haven't really been very impressed with any argument that he's made, but whatever, he's doing his thing. Yeah. Who am I to judge? But he said something in this...
The 1 second. One second was between when you said, who am I to judge, and the but.
Debate that is actual bullshit. And it happens to hit directly on what my actual area of expertise is. Because guys, like, this is not my job. This is not my day job in real life. My day job is as an organizational psychologist. And since Vaush talked about and actually advocated for appeals to authority in the course of this video, let's establish my authority to talk on this subject. Let's get it out of the way. And perhaps for the purpose of this,
that's not what appeals to authority is, okay? If he was using the logical fallacy of the appeals to authority, that means during the conversation, he was using authority as a way of justifying something that is falsifiable. And then he was saying it's not falsifiable because, again, I have an authority on the source, or I am an authority on the source. One of the two. You don't establish yourself as the authority to start off with. That's not how that works.
We're going to call me Dr. Borisenko because my PhD is in psychology. My focus is on industrial and organizational psychology. I work with businesses to help build high-performing and resilient teams. That's what I do. That is what I do for a living. But it doesn't stop there, man. Because one of the things I do is I am chief science officer of a company called Rally Bright, and literally the focus of Rally Bright, the entire reason that Rally Bright exists, is to build highly resilient, high-performing teams. So
she's a corporate psychologist, by which she goes into companies, usually large corporations, and gets to find ways to get their hive minds to operate to optimal pleasure of the CEOs. That's her 9 to 5.
And I saw Vaush last night saying to Sargon in this debate and advocating that worker co-ops and those types of structures produce more resilient teams, more productive teams, more successful teams, and teams that are better at that enjoy the work that they do more. Man, he was so excited about this. I've got this research that says they're more resilient and more productive and all these things. Bullshit, man. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He absolutely does not know what he's talking about. That doesn't mean that co-ops can't work, but to say that they produce more resilient, better performing teams than private organizations that have a traditional hierarchical structure, it is absolutely 100% not true.
Interesting. Okay, no, I'm here to learn. So let's bring up the study, the facts, the figures, the data. Here we go.
Not true. I do this for a living. And I'm just going to give you one example that I think shows this really emphatically. Now, this is not actually a worker co-op model, but essentially what I'm going to look at is Zappos. Zappos. Remember Zappos? I mean, Zappos is obviously still around, but Zappos made headlines a couple years ago in the business world. This is from the Society of Human Resources Management, so pretty decent source there. They made headlines a couple years ago when they started to remove all hierarchical structure and managers out of the organization. They were implementing this model called a holacracy, which is basically like it's a much more egalitarian approach. Again, it's not a co-op, it's not kind of the same thing, but it is a much more egalitarian, dare I say, democratic.
Are you fucking me? Is this how she's going to lead? When she even acknowledges that this is not a worker cooperative, but she's going to use this as an example to dispel the myth that worker cooperatives produce more work satisfaction? That's... Oh my. Okay. All right.
You're removing this traditional leadership structure. You're removing that structure that most organizations are built on, where you have people at the very top and then people underneath them, all that stuff. So Zappos actually did this. They spent years implementing this change. And you know what happened? You know what one of the results was? They drove away 30% of their employees, which is 10% higher than their normal average turnover rate. One-third of their staff actually ended up quitting. So why might that be? If we're creating this much more egalitarian thing where it's all about, relationships and how we work together and collaborative, it's very much similar to what you
don't even know what a worker co-op is. I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt at this, and I was like, well, clearly, in your field, you've learned what they are, and you can go from there. Like, what? Do you think they're a cartoon? Are you just like, oh, it's just all about friendliness, and they sing songs and hold hands, and they dance, and there's the children, and the butterflies, and the rainbows? It's not like that at all right? That's not the real world. That's not the world we live in.
You would find in one of those co-op models, to be really honest, where there's no one at the top, there's no leader, and all this stuff. It resulted in driving away 30% of the day.
Not what worker cooperatives are. That's not what they are.
Damn team, man. And one of the reasons that happens is because this egalitarian approach, it only works with a very, 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 very specific type of work style. There are absolutely people that will respond to that type of work environment, but it is not the majority of workers. And I'll even go a step further. The people that usually drive businesses forward, the people that have the big ideas, the bold things that lead to businesses being successful, they have a work style that is directly contradictory to the type of people that are going to succeed in those types of in the more egalitarian types of organizations. So you've already just taken these people, the people that are going to build things, the people that are going to create things, the people that are going to have the really big, exciting ideas that you're going to be able to sell to consumers. You've just taken them and have essentially removed them from the pool of potential employees in your business. That's not good, man. There is no best work style. There is no worst work style. What we need to, in order to have successful businesses, in order to build high functioning, highly resilient teams, is you need a good mix of work styles. You need a good diverse mix. Dare I say, wait for it, diversity of thought. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Diversity of thought, diversity of approach, because those big, bold leaders, guess what? They balance out other types of work style.
None of this has anything to do with worker cooperatives. Again, what is going on? I don't understand. This is the strangest straw man. Like this, is this the whole thing? Is this whole thing gonna be like this? Start to finish? Like this, yeah, does she think worker co-ops are somehow communist?
And people need leaders. They need it. And especially the people that are more successful in these more egalitarian type businesses, they are much more comfortable emotionally in a work environment where they have someone saying, this is good, keep doing this, this is bad, don't do this anymore. These are the people who are literally looking for both guardrails. Now, in any social system, you are going to have people who rise up to those leadership positions. That is just going to happen naturally. That happens in a holacracy, just like Zappos has. Part of the reason why holacracies don't work. It happens in co-ops as well. You will always have people that naturally rise up to those leadership positions. But it is much more difficult. Like once they get that little, here's what happens. Once they get that little taste of power, ooh, they want more of it, don't they? Gee, doesn't that sound like maybe a communist society? Where these leaders kind of rise up into what is supposed to be a very communal system, and they get that little taste of power, and once they get it, they don't let go of it.
This is ridiculous.
And they influence people to create all these systems that are specifically designed to keep them in power. In privately owned businesses that are traditionally run, you don't have that problem because there is a very clear hierarchy.
Okay, so she pulled up one example, and the example wasn't of a worker cooperative. She has absolutely no idea what a worker cooperative is. Clearly, she does think it's I said that as a joke. That was a bit. Like, what is it? Like 5 minutes ago, I was like, "Whoa, does she think it's actually literally communism?" But it turns out, yeah, no, she does. She thinks that worker cooperatives are communism somehow. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. To say the least. All right, well, let's do some quick facts and figure stuff here. So I'm gonna pull up what we call studies. All right, we're gonna pull up a whole bunch of studies, and it's not like I have these on the go, but they're actually very easy to find with some cursory Google searches. You'll be able to learn because. Surprise, surprise, there's been a lot of studies done on worker cooperatives. For good reason. I mean, when it involves the economy, when it involves the conditions, when it involves people's lives, there tends to be quite a bit of research on it. So, from the first one I brought up, a study by Cruz and Blalsi found that meta-analysis favor an overall positive association between employee stock ownership programs and for several cooperative features. It goes on to demonstrate that they have better working conditions that lead to better lives, which lead to better worker efficacy. From a Doukuliagos et al. 1995 study conducted, the meta-analysis confirms that the sharing of profits in labor management firms is positively associated with productivity. And the 95% confidence interval is strongly statistically significant. Profit sharing in LMFs always has a positive association with the productivity, that the association in the LMFs is not moderated in any way. Suffice to say that if you have skin in the game, if you are actually working for something that you have co-ownership and also that you have democratic control over, you have more ambition towards what you're working on. And that just, if I can switch back to the fields, that makes sense to me. Like, I love what I do, so I'm very ambitious towards doing it. And I also have a stake in the game, so I don't have a boss in the same traditional sense. A 2007 Freeman study has the following to say. Querel and Rosen found significantly higher post-adoption growth for worker cooperatives that had participation groups and for worker cooperative companies in which management perceived higher worker influence compared to those similar that did not have worker influence. So again, worker influence happens to show itself in better productivity. Additionally, the surprisingly large volume of research on ESOP employees and ownership is overwhelmingly positive and largely credible. A study in the 1995 Brookings Institute says the second class of findings relates to these production functions. Though the production functions of the mills may not be identical, there is not much to distinguish these types of firms in terms of overall production efficiency. However, what differences have been found to imply that co-ops are more efficient than the principal conventional firms by between 6 to 14% more, as the results can be found. 2011 Murray study. The 5-year survival rate of both operating and dissolving co-ops is 102 out of 155 co-ops, or 65.8%. This comparatively favorables to a 2008 Quebec study, which shows the survival rate of co-ops in the province at 64%. By contrast, Industry Canada figures show 43% and 39% for traditional companies. Ergo, co-ops are way better at sustaining long-term than traditional companies, because surprise, surprise, if the only motive for the owners isn't simply profit, and it's not only the motive for a singular action of one individual, then yes, they do not do things like ship the entire company overseas to get cheaper labor elsewhere. They do not do things like fire their entire staff and replace them with robots because it's cheaper. They do things that might be more efficient for the company and more productive for the employees, because at the end of the day, all the employees have skin in the game. All of them are working towards something, so they all want to work harder and make more profit for everybody, not just for one single CEO, which will surprise you to learn, by the way, if you've done research on worker cooperatives, that they still have bosses and managers. That's right. Except in the case of Mondragon, they usually earn between 5 to 8 times what the rest of their employees earn, and they do more work, so in essence, they feel that they are going to be remunerated for that, but they do not do 321 times more work than their employees. Like, that's not how it works. They're also democratically voted in, and they can also get democratically voted out. That can happen. So if they suck, which, come on, let's be honest, a lot of CEOs they end up sucking, you can vote them out. And they're not CEOs in the traditional sense, but like, if your manager sucks, if your boss sucks, if who's ever supervising you, they're considered supervisors, you vote them out. Like, that sounds so much better. Like, you have democracy in the workplace. So the company just doesn't bleed out at times, or just inflates to the point of sale, which is what massive corporations do all the time. I could go on and on. The Rollins and L 2012 study found the same thing. The Blaise, Kant, and Cruz 1996 review study found the exact same thing. The A. Borzaga Fazi 2014 concluded the following: social cooperatives that respond most to new social welfare needs according to the principles of justice and inclusion are those who maintain the most solid ties with civil society through governance models that involve a plurality of stakeholders. It is better, it is more humane, it is more efficient, it is more productive, it sustains itself better in the long term across the board by every metric. At its worst iterations, worker cooperatives are better than traditional businesses for everything. So there's no dispute here. And I don't have to pull up some strange straw man and be like, I want to talk about a traditional business in comparison to here, and I know this isn't a traditional business. This happens to be a fever dream that I saw on the back of a placemat at Denny's. But again, this is an example of something. I don't have to do that. Like, I can study after study. Like, these keep on going. 2004 studies by Antonio Thomas. Blaise, Cruz, Weltman study in 2013. Apart, Cruz, and Cecil, 2004. Like, fuck. Wither and Marins, 1997 study looking at organizational democracy, cooperatives, or employee ownership as embryonic third-way structures within capitalist market economies. Virtually all research points to higher productivity rates or better performance indicators for that than in ordinary firms. All I'm going to say, by the way, is from now on, the left is coming at you with facts and figures, all right? And the right is decidedly in the feels over the reals. That's all I'm seeing from all of this. So let's keep it going, everybody. Let's keep looking, because at the end of the day, look to what works best. Look to what is more humane. Look to what is like. I mean, come on. If we're all here's an appeal to the debate lords. We're all rule utilitarians, right? Like, we all want to maximize happiness for the most amount of people. I want to, maximize love and joy and comfort. Then we should look to what works, look to other models, and if it does work, we should implement that model until something else is found that works better. And that's what we'll continue to do and evolve and enjoy. But she knits. True. I forgot about all the bigotry in the knitting community. I should have learned about this shit.
To our monarch, Thomas Bone, you are the light that guides our path. To our lords, I'm Rab, Stephen, Ninetails Cosmic Fox, and Hans Josephine, we bow meekly for your pleasure. To our knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Bythe, Alexander Thaler, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Clement Schutzkopf, Skybear Games, Moss Beast, Political Puppy, Alan R., Andreas Chitoro, Good Poon Hates Cops, that's solid poon then, we salute you. And to all our merchants and farmers, you have our undying loyalty and love.